Hello, and welcome to a spooky, scary TLDW. Today's game, Spectre of Torment. So viewer, prepare for a spoopy time. Our quest begins in the plains, under the creepy glow of twilight. Us, as WrightKnight, began our harrowing adventure to recruit an undefeatable order for the Enchantress. When the first signs of disaster show their angry head, we accidentally close the game. So, we reopen the game and dash/slash our way through the plains, getting murderized by a bubble-blowing dragon along the way. We encounter our first knight, WrightKnight. We try to convince him to join the Enchantress, before trying to more forcefully convince him. And even though we defeat him, and his trusty steed Reapin, he won't be having any of our propositions, opting to look for the one. Back at the tower, we get told off by the Enchantress. We speak with Red, trade some red skulls for curios, throw some gold into a jar and upgrade our cloak before setting off to our main turf, the Lich Yard. There, we don't have too hard a time. We even go check in on our room before falling into some water. Before we know it, we're face to face with the Phantom Striker, an honorable and quick knight wielding the power of lightning, a powerful ally for the Enchantress, if we can convince him. The battle's a little tough, but victory is ours. However, he'll have none of it, and swears to defeat us someday. 0 for 2, we return to the tower, getting the Skeleton Sentry Curio, getting the Scowl emote, and upgrading the Skeleton Sentry Curio before setting off to our next destination, Pridemore Keep. Pridemore Keep, like any suitable castle, proves to be a problem for us, as we die numerous times to the cauldrons of porridge, bottomless pits, flails, spikes, magic books, and griffins. Despite all the death, we make it the King Knight, whom we easily convince to join us. At the tower, we have a flashback back to the days when we were Donovan, journeying with a man named Luan in search of a magic amulet capable of protecting his boy. Well, enough of that. We've got something bigger to deal with. Audio problems. Oops. After spending a bit of time fixing that, we're off to the Exploratorium for an explosively good time. But not really. You see, I don't like making mistakes, and the combination of all the death and frustration from my Pridemore Keep and the audio problems made me tilted. By the way, for those of you who don't know what tilted means, in this context it refers to when a gamer's too caught up in their current bad mood, and as a result, tense up and start playing worse than they normally would, making mistakes they normally wouldn't, etc. So in other words, I was in for a grand time. By the way, the phrase tilted originated with the pinball cabinet, where players would tilt the pinball machine to keep the ball in play. Anyway, I kept on wanting to rush through the level because I was upset, which is not great, and as a result I died twice. Granted, that's not terrible, and I easily convinced Plague Knight to join the Enchantress. But in my rushing about, I forgot the wisp, so I had to play through the level again just to remember where it was, and then die on some spikes and fight Plague Knight again. Again, real fun there. Having calmed down from the stuff the day prior, I go to fight Mole Knight in the Lost City. Just before I do though, Reese bursts through the window wanting to beat up some bad guys. Too bad the Enchantress corrupts him into being one of the bad guys. Feels bad, man. Anyway, we fight him, defeat him, and then we're off on our way to the Lost City. While at the Lost City, we died to an energy falcon and a bit of drippy lava, but otherwise managed to make it through A-OK, even convincing Mole Knight to join the Enchantress. Next up, the Iron Whale, home of Treasure Knight. There we fight a giant treasure anglerfish that didn't pose that much of a risk, and before we knew it, we're at Treasure Knight. By the way, he didn't stand a chance. We have another flashback where we naturally fight Shield Knight, who's trying to keep us from releasing an ancient evil or something. Of course, we didn't listen, and as a result, we got killed once. Second time though, we defeat Shield Knight and go to claim what's rightfully ours, before dying in the tower. Next up, the Flying Machine. Easy enough pickings with the newest curio in my collection, the Hover Plume. We still die once, so that's cool. Anyway, we fight Propeller Knight and easily defeat him. Next level, the Clockwork Tower. Or not, because the Baz makes an appearance. Of course, he gets rejected, so we finally get to go to the Clockwork Tower. Anyway, it wasn't that bad. We're fighting Tinker Knight. Twice. To be honest, it took a couple of tries. Mostly because of the pits of death that scatter the level and my frantic attempts at wall jumping. I do manage to defeat him though. Then it's another flashback time, back to when the Enchantress gave us new life in exchange for getting her an invincible Order of Knights, also known as her quest. Before I went to get Polar Knight, there was something I wanted to do. something I managed to do last year. I wanted to do again for some odd reason. It was called Horus's Tower Climb. It took several attempts, but I managed to do it. It's finally time to recruit the last knight, Polar Knight. So we head over to the stranded ship and rail grinded our way through relatively easily, and then just decimate Polar Knight. Back at the tower, I finally reunite Red with his long-lost Scarlet. Meanwhile, I'm thinking of trying to get the Scythe Economy achievement, so after a bit of dancing, I make my way to the mirror, where I forget that I'm due for another Black Knight encounter. So after dealing with that and also finding out the Enchantress's Shield Knight, I attempt to finally get that achievement at the place that started it all, the Lich Yard. When that didn't work, I tried the Lost City, which failed horribly. So I do a bit of googling and then make another attempt at it, this time at Pridemore Keep. I actually make it pretty far here, but because my strategy requires me to destroy the checkpoints, I end up having to repeat a lot of the course and ultimately give up when I die at the book part. So I gotta beat the game instead. I think I was really tilted though, because I performed horribly and realized that I wouldn't be able to focus until I went back to Pridemore Keep and had another go at the achievement. This time though, I managed to make it through, and like that, the achievement was mine. With that out of the way, I finally make my way back to the final stages of the game. The first stage was a piece of cake without the frustration of the lack of achievement. Before I knew it, we were fighting Black Knight again, whose bounce had determined to stop us. He failed. Last stage of the game, the flame barrier made this level laughably easy. But when I realized I forgot the red skulls, I had to restart the level anyway. Attempt 2. I remember the skulls this time, and now it's time to fight the Enchantress. I defeat her pretty easily, and now it's time for the final boss, Rees, who gets transformed into this monster Rees. This battle takes place entirely on the grindy rails, so curios are pretty much useless here. Despite that, I only died once, even though I remember it being a lot tougher than this on my first playthrough. With Rees defeated, the Enchantress goes to make him her final knight. However, despite all our efforts, we demand to become her final knight in exchange for Boomerang Boy's freedom. As our last act of freedom, we cure Rees of his evil and take him back to his home. The world, now conquered by evil, and our will broken. The credits roll. And we see that we died a total of 9 times at Pridemore Keep. Oof. We also see that our favorite curio was the Reaper's Claw, which was a bit of a surprise. And we see that we only lost 765 gold, which was surprising. Back at the Lich Yard, we have another flashback with Luan. In it, we see that our locket thing was a gift from Luan. We also learn that Rees was Luan's kid, and that we'd lay our life down to save his, which explains the end a bit more. And then the words "the end" write themselves into the sky. A nice way to bring our adventure to a close. However, we're not done yet, because we return to the tower to give Red the remaining red skulls. Our prize? The Donovan's hut, and also some caltrops. And with that, our adventure is truly over, and so we end our adventure with some funky dancing on top of the tower. And that was Spectre of Torment, a truly spoopy adventure filled with death, specters, and torment. And also revenge, and gold. A fun adventure though. I always have to get used to the wall jumping whenever I play it. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this spooktacular video. If you did, be sure to like, comment, and possibly subscribe. Also check out the links in the description if you want to get more involved with the channel. Anyway, hope you have a good day, night, evening, or spoopy season. And I hope to see you next time. Bye.